It's Chelsea.
It's Nina.
And you're in the Critics' Kingdom.
Hey.
Hey.
So this week we have a fun one. We have the Proud Family movie. You remember it.
A film.
Yes, a film for a series. A capital, all caps, a series.
So it came out in 2005, and it was actually the finale of the series. Which I didn't fully remember. For some reason, I thought it was I knew it was towards the end, but I remembered it sort of being, and I think it's just because of the way that they played shows and your child.
They didn't stop playing.
Yeah, it was no concept of time.
Yeah.
So, but I think I thought that it came out I thought they kicked off season 3 or the second half of season 3 or something like that. But that is not true.
No, because the show had already been on for 5 years.
Yeah.
Because it was on 01 to 05.
5 years, but 3 seasons.
Yeah.
Total.
But yeah, so the show had already been on for 5 years, so this was kind of the end, which is and they made so many episodes per season because again there are 3 seasons.
Yeah.
Over 5 years.
Exactly.
So you didn't feel.
Yeah, you never felt that when I found out recently, sort of revisiting it, that the Proud Family was only 3 seasons long, I was shocked.
Yeah.
I was that doesn't make any sense. It was on forever. And it's no, they just didn't stop playing it.
I feel that's also very common with, animated shows and then kids shows.
Yeah.
That was, when I found out, Taina was really only, 1 season, and there also weren't that many episodes, but they kept replaying them, so it felt like it lasted forever.
Or, even, I remember with Avatar that was a thing, because, realizing being older and being exactly, and being oh, it's 3 seasons and it's 3 elements, that makes sense. But when I was younger, I remember being I can't wait for when they're gonna do water, and it felt like it took 4 years.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But again, because I was small and had no concept of time.
Yes.
But yeah, so I think that we should just get right in.
Yeah,
to
let's
the
get into
review.
recap.
To the recap, yes, correct. So, the Proud Family movie, we open on actually some very, very beautiful underwater graphics. It's in a slightly different style than the show. I remember when I was a kid being sort of piqued by that, but really, really into it. Watching it again, we commented on it. It was cute.
Mm-hmm.
And we essentially, we come up on this island and we hear this growling creature in the sea, and on this island there lives what is, clearly coded as this mad scientist who is working on a genome generator formula, trying to beef up and multiply these little peanut life forms that he's created. So we see him do the experiment. He's really excited. He has this little peanut warrior man that he makes, and is finally, my genome formula works. But then it doesn't, and the warrior man melts, and he's annoyed and not about it and upset. That's our sort of pre-lap, and then we cut to our beloved favorite Penny Proud in a car with her 3 best friends. And the teacher who's always really meek until she screams real loud at all the bad children. Mm-hmm. And she's learning to drive. But she's very deeply distracted because she's finding out from her friends or discussing with her friends, the backup dance auditions for 15 cent. The little Romeo Bow Wow combination.
Yeah.
15-year-old artist. That, is sort of the big deal of the Proud Family universe. And, she almost crashes the car. She goes home really excited, changes into her little outfit, asks her dad about, backup dancing tryouts, and he's essentially hell no. As Oscar is always, hell no. Because, I don't know if you guys remember, but Oscar doesn't want Penny out in these streets under any circumstance, for the most part. And so he tells her, he pretty much, tells her she can't do it. But he has to leave because, he has a snack presentation with this really fancy society of snack things. They're the ones that Mr. Pringle and stuff want to be in, and they can't get in. So he, packs up all the stuff, and he says that he has this like really cool he has these new snacks, and that are still horrible because they're Proud snacks and they're always horrible. And he has this new formula. He has this like dipping sauce for them, right? But when he dips them in the sauce, what actually happens is like the snack blows up to a huge size and then like destabilizes essentially, and then bursts into like a million little baby snacks. But then those snacks are like they last forever. They never expire. So he's taking that with him to the presentation. When we get to the presentation, we see the, mad scientist that we saw before is already there, and he's giving a presentation about, peanut snacks. And the board is essentially like, peanuts are out, bruh. No one wants peanuts. Like, we're not going to do that. Stop coming here. And he sort of loses it, and he like gets really upset, and he threatens them, and it's a whole big thing. Storms out very, very angry. Oscar is presenting right after him, and he happens to overhear like sort of the top of Oscar's formula, or the top of Oscar's like presentation, sticks around to listen to the rest of it, because he realizes that this dipping sauce Oscar has, or the fact that his things never expire, he's like, maybe this person has figured out something that will help me be able to actually like stabilize and like make my peanut genome experiments actually survive past like initial phase and stop melting. So he pretty much does hear that Oscar does have that, and now he's scheming. He's like, I'm gonna get this from this man because he seems like a fool. Meanwhile, Penny has snuck out to the audition, and against her parents' wishes, and at first like she actually is doing quite fine, but then her Zoe ain't got no rhythm, and they're about to kick out Zoe, and she's like, no, that's my girl. So then they try to kick her out, and she's kind of not having it. But then 15 Cent shows up, and he takes a shine to Penny. So Penny does get to stay, and then she gets a ride home from him, because he's Sticky's cousin. That's also a base level of importance. He's Sticky's cousin. So, he gives a ride home to, like, Penny and Sticky and Dejanay. And, they kick Dejanay and Sticky out the car, because it's like, bro, you gotta go. And, they have their cute little, misunderstanding about who 15 Cent is in person. Peggy realizes that he's actually quite sweet, and then she kisses him, and we all see Penny get her first kiss. And Oscar, coming home from his snack presentation, also sees it and has a genuine meltdown. Like, he just breaks down. His poor heart. He can't take it. So, obviously, a huge fight ensues between Oscar and Penny. Some very harsh words are said. He cancels her birthday. It's like, we're not celebrating anything. Her 16th birthday. She's essentially like, I wish that I had different parents. I wish I had a different family. And her mom, like, can't talk her down this time, like she usually does. Trudy's usually the peacekeeper. So, Penny's upstairs sulking, and then Dr. Carver, who we know is, a mad scientist and plotting, shows up at the front door and essentially is like, hey, Mr. Proud, like, you've won a weekend getaway to my island. You should come. And at first he's kind of like, no, he's not about it. But then Trudy is like, oh no, I would love a weekend getaway. And essentially it just becomes a thing where the whole family accepts. And Penny's upset about it, that she has to go on this family trip. So they all head off to this island, and essentially to Legume Island. That's the name of the island. And essentially what unfolds is, they're sort of wined and dined at first, and Oscar we watch him fall into Dr. Carver's trap, essentially. Penny is still really peaked, so she sneaks out one night because she just, like, doesn't want to be, like, she goes and sulks around the island and such like that. She befriends Dr. Carver's little peanut companion, Cashew. And Cashew's like, I always wondered what it'd be like to have a family, because I've never had one. And, like, so she sneaks out. Oscar essentially is called on by Dr. Carver, and he's like, let's be business partners. I want that formula. But then Oscar's warned by, you know, this weird, like, dreaded peanut that shows up in the tree.
The Rasta peanut.
Who's like, don't trust him, he's an evil man. And then disappears back into the or he gets caught by Dr. Carver.
Yeah.
But so Oscar's a little, he has enough sense to like be like, oh, we can be partners, but I'm not giving you that formula. I keep that, but we can be 50-50 partners, because he's really swayed by this money. Dr. Carver gets impatient and essentially captures and tortures Oscar by various forms, like tickling and electric eels and such. And he shows Oscar that he has in fact made peanut clones of Oscar's whole family, including Oscar. And that if he won't give it to them, like, now they're going to be trapped on the island, and he's going to send these clones to, like, do their job, to, like, get the formula, even though he won't tell him. So Oscar's, like, worried about all of that, but they sort of keep him captive, and essentially what ends up happening is a switched identity situation. Penny, a real Penny, seeing her family getting on a boat, thinks that her whole family is leaving, and gets on that boat, while the clone Penny had gone to change, like, to program her watch or something like that, sync up her watch. That's how they communicate. So clone Penny ends up staying on the island with the family, and the family doesn't realize it's clone Penny. Real Penny goes back home with the clone family, doesn't realize it's a clone family. And essentially, you know, we see on the island, the family has, like, managed to escape, and they've, like, found safe haven with Wally and his, you know, horde of misfit peanuts who are actually with the real Dr. Carver. And we find out that the person that they've been dealing with is actually a peanut clone himself. He's one of Dr. Carver's first peanut clones, Dr. Marcus Garvey Carver. That's how we'll distinguish them. Dr. Marcus Garvey Carver's first clone that he left out too long in the sun. He went a little batty because he's ugly. He's burnt and ugly. And so he became obsessed with proving to the world that peanuts were worthwhile and sure. So they're trying to figure out how to sort of stop him. But little Penny's clone is there and is sort of just tagging along, trying to get information. Eventually does get the information that the formula is in Penny's locket at home. And reports that, and then that's when it's revealed that she's the clone, and Dr. Carver the clone comes to get them and, like, traps everybody, including Dr. Marcus Carver. You know who I'm talking about. So back home, what essentially had happened was Penny got home and her parents were suddenly mad cool. Like, they were letting her do whatever she wanted to do. And she was like, this is so strange. And gets to the point where she's like, I actually don't love this. I don't love that I'm not having, like, I don't have any structure. Like, y'all don't care enough about me to tell me not to do things. What's going on? So because of that, you know, she's sort of clocking that something is weird. And she's essentially, you know, they're essentially trying to find this formula. So they're looking at it all over the place, but they're also experiencing human things. Clone Trudy's getting real hip-hop and real urban youth.
Real street.
Real quick. And, you know, and Oscar, like, finds out he likes hot dogs because Proud Snacks
and
always,
dancing,
right? And dancing, and he, like, tries out. He ends up, like, you know, becoming a spare change dancer. Those are 15 cents backup dancers as well. It's all, like, really cute and really funny. But essentially, she realizes that they're clones.
Yeah, because Cashew actually stows away back with her because he wanted to see what it was like in a real family. And he basically just, like, spills the beans to her, like, day she realizes that he's in her closet.
Yeah.
And he's been there for a couple days, and he's just like, it sucks that your family's fake. And she's like, what?
Excuse me? And at first she doesn't believe him, but then, like, she clearly sees that they really are, because the moment that she goes to confront them is when they find out that, from Penny Clone, that, like, oh, we know where the formula is. Go get her. Go get it. So they steal the formula from her, and they bounce out, and now Penny is like, oh my goodness, like, my family is trapped. Those were clones. What am I going to do? Obviously, you get your girls together. That's what you do. You get your crew together and you're like, listen, we got to go rescue the Prouds. That's what we got to do. So that is what they do in 15 cents yatch that Sticky really doesn't want them to steal, but they steal.
They stole the yatch.
They stole the yatch, and They head off to Legume Island. They get there. They got a dance battle with the peanuts to get on the island. Zoe finally finds her rhythm. That's where she learns to break it down. It's real cute. It's fun. And essentially, she shows up and she saves her family. That's just the quick version of it, and convinces, like, they're about to be captured again, but she convinces the clone Oscar to help her because, like, he's, like, grown, feelings of humanity a little bit. And, like, they manage to she manages to save her family, but Dr. Carver the clone escapes with the formula onto a blimp that's filled of the peanut warriors that he's made. And his plan is to descend on, like, the town and, take it over. And he's gonna do it during the stuff ball game, this big stuff ball game, so that everybody's at the stadium. Wizard Kelly's putting on things. They go, and essentially, like, Penny ends up on that blimp, like, fighting, and Oscar joins her, and she has like the anti-formula to, like, destabilize all the peanuts.
Yeah.
But before she's about to use it, he's like, Dr. Carver's like, Penny, don't you want to be able to do whatever you want for the rest of your life? And she's like, maybe. But then she's like, immediately, like, you know what? No. I love my imperfect family as they are. And she destabilizes the peanuts, and, like, the blimp explodes. Everybody watches all this happen, but 15 Cent, because he's, like, up on the game, he's like, hey, y'all, wasn't that a great performance? And everybody is like, oh, excellent. Clap, clap, clap,
Free
clap,
peanut.
clap.
Free peanut butter
Peanuts
for everyone.
everywhere.
Free peanut butter for everyone.
And, then Penny and her girls perform as the spare change dances. And, and it ends. We do see Puff's revenge. Puff ends up getting into the formula and grows to a very, very large size and sort of Godzilla's his way across the town. And that's literally how the movie ends, which is odd. But
yeah,
that is the Proud Family movie.
Yeah. So, for the review, I think the biggest thing here is that we would be remiss to talk about the Proud Family movie without talking about the Proud Family as a series.
Yeah.
And, like, how iconic it was and how much it meant to, like, our generation, but I think anybody at that time that, like, was, our generation, sure. And I'm sure older people probably watched some of it too, because something that we, like, loved while it was going on, but obviously, like, I was too young to, like, be able to name what it was, is they had such specific cultural references.
Yeah.
And they still come through in the movie, and it was more of, like, I know you've been rewatching it, Nina, but I haven't rewatched it yet on Disney Plus, and I had kind of forgotten about that, and, like, that's one of the reasons that made it such a good show, is because they dropped references to, like, any and all, like, Wizard Kelly is clearly a parody of Magic Johnson / Michael Jordan / like, just all those big, like, sports stars who end up just becoming bigger than themselves.
And he also sings.
And he sings, and it's just great, but it's a great parody, It
like, really is. And you never see his face. Like, they do it in a very smart way.
It's never seen his face.
That kids latch onto, like, the way in which, Dejanay is obviously coded as, like, sort of the more rough and tumble friend, and they have
the
her
Niecy of the group. Yeah,
and they have her have, like, a bunch of little brothers and sisters who are all obviously baby, like, they really are baby's kids. There's a whole episode where Penny babysits them, and they are terror children, and they're all named after spices.
Yes,
it's like, it's something that's so. I just remember, like, looking back and thinking about my relationship to the show as a child, watching it now. It's just like, I remember how sort of plausible everything about it was.
Yeah.
Everything about it tracked. Like, did I necessarily know anybody named after spices? No. But it made sense that there was a family of children out there named after spices.
Oh, yeah, not unbelievable at all. Like, it was just like, this tracks. Sure.
Yeah, like, everything about, even the way, like, watching the way, like, Penny's the one with the strict parents, who, like, aren't gonna let her do whatever she wants to do. Even Zoe is, like, your that white friend, that one white kid
girl
who lives in the predominantly not white neighborhood of, like, an urban of an inner city or whatever you want to call it. So, like, you grow up with that person, and, like, they have to grow up with, like, a bit of flavor, so you have your one white friend. who's like down, and like we all love Zoe.
We do love Zoe.
But yeah, they ain't got no rhythm. They gotta learn rhythm so we can win the dance battle. It's like all of these little sort of nuggets that just felt authentic. Yeah. It felt like it was a writer's room of people who really understood the culture that they were referencing, who really understood the demographic that they were aiming the show at, or the demographic that they were choosing to represent. Right. In a very, very fundamental way.
Because even a lot of the characters themselves, like we were talking about, like the uncle, Bobby Proud, like in the fact that he's literally like every like 70s black uncle that you're like, you know, he's on the Soul Train cruise. You know? Like it's just like, but it was like there's no they didn't have to explain that. Like, you know, it was like you just got it. You were like, yeah, that totally makes sense. And you have an uncle who clearly loves Kool in the Gang. Yeah, and too much.
You definitely have a grandmother who like cracks on your father always. Right. You know, and who is in love with a man who cracks on her always and doesn't seem to care. Like those relationships like are just accurate. They're sort of representative of real world situations that if I wasn't personally in, like I definitely had friends extended families that I, you know, met because of being close or whatever, where I could see that very quickly reflected back at me. So
yeah, they just did it so well. Also the Kwanzaa episode.
The Kwanzaa episode
is so good.
Is one of those iconic. Like I almost wish that it had been a movie so that we could have reviewed it for like holidays.
That would have been maybe when they also just announced that they're going to do a continuation, guys. I think comes out sometime this year.
Let's hope that
in 2021. It's called The Proud Family Louder and Prouder. It's going to be on Disney Plus, but you know, we have high hopes because it's like it's the same people redoing it. Like it's Bruce W. Smith, who shout out to you. He created it and like also worked on it, but he worked on Baby's Kids.
Yeah, I know that's why they're like that.
Yeah, so like he's a black animation creator, and so it's just shout out to you because we need a lot more of those, and I'm happy to see now that a lot more black animated shows are getting greenlit. But yeah, like he was there at a time when this wasn't prevalent, like at all. So, and especially something like this that was so embedded in pop culture,
but it was a hit.
It was kids loved it, and
everybody.
They also had like the best guest stars on this animated show. Mariah Carey was on this fucking show. I remember her episode. I'm also a Mariah fan, but like her episode was before I think I became like a super, because that happened like when the Emancipation Movie came out. So it like her episode was before that. And I knew, like, you just knew who she was.
Also, there's, like, the running gag that it's so funny that... So, the theme song for the Proud Family is sung by Solange and Destiny's Child.
It's, like, featuring Destiny's Child.
Which is, like... It's insane. Wild. It's, like, one of the best, like, little time capsules of a thing to exist is the credit for that theme song.
Because it's, like, in 2001.
Like, yeah.
That made sense.
And... just the way in which, like, the deep, like, it's so funny. People, like, there's a gag, essentially, that Beyonce's life ended up being that of the Proud Family. Yeah. That's literally, like, who they're, like, a kid who's, like, kind of older with two twins underneath, like, a boy and a girl. Mm-hmm. Like, your husband who, like, I mean, it's just, it breaks down very well. Yeah. Like, when you look at, like, photo comparisons, you're like, well, that's
what happened.
That is exactly what ended up happening. Like, life straight up imitated this art. And then it makes me, like, sit back and be like, I would love to imagine that the Carter household is like the Proud household.
Oh, I could totally see Blue one day.
I once read a thing that was, like, quite entertaining, where it was, like 10 years from now, it was a couple years, like, you know, or 12 years from now, when Blue gets mad at Jay-Z and she goes up to her room, you hear her slam the door and then just start bumping Ether mad loud. It's like, yeah, that tracks. But yeah, man, it's just it was a fun ride watching this. Mm-hmm. To be sort of in the same way that it's like a fun ride rewatching the first like couple seasons of Moesha and rewatching Sister just like, oh right, like, though there used to be the reference, there used to be shows where the references of it weren't just like a wide like overarching American.
Yeah, they're very culturally
it's like
specific.
This was specific.
Yeah.
And it did it well. It did that specificity well.
Well, and I feel like we have kind of lost that, especially for kids. Like, I think we talked about this in one of our other episodes, but we kind of lost that for a lot of kids and teen shows.
Yeah.
Like, that doesn't really exist anymore. Like, I'm even trying to think of, like, culturally specific shows for, like, adults, and I think of, like, an Insecure, which is great, but, like, kids should not be watching Insecure. You could argue maybe teens, but even for the teens.
I would have been watching it.
No, I know.
It's like the whole thing with Euphoria, where you're like, kids should be watching Euphoria. It's like, but if I would, I would be watching the hell out of Euphoria when I shouldn't.
And it's like, you could be, but it's like, but we don't really have things geared towards teens and kids anymore that are also pop culture, like so embedded in pop culture, I think.
Yeah, and I think that they're trying to. In theory, like, I can imagine that Netflix is in the throes of developing that kind of stuff. And, like, you know, like Dickinson, for example, on Apple TV Plus is like, it's not a promotion. But in theory, that's what it was that's what that is supposed to be, like a teen show.
You said like a teen show.
I'm using the word show very liberally.
Yeah. I feel like people have taken, they think culturally specific has become static instead of timeless. And I think because the problem is you have to do it well. That's the thing with culturally specific. You have to do it like this. You have to do it like a Moesha, or you have to do it like a sister or girlfriends. Where it's like, if you're gonna have it take place in that time and you're gonna be like, ooh, we have Montel Jordan on and like all these random people, you have to do it well because it can go left very quickly.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's always the issue with now is it's like whenever they try to, because now you have to incorporate all the social media stuff.
Yeah, and it gets
really
muddy. As opposed to, I think, the Proud Family, where it's like, even in the first couple episodes, I didn't realize that so many of the heavy hitter episodes happened so early in the first season. But like, the episode where Penny dresses up as Shirley Chisholm and ends up like fighting for rights with her friends, right? And the whole thing about like, you won't know where you're going. The janitor telling her you won't know where you're going if you don't remember your past. Like,
right.
You guys should care about your history and your Black history and all of that.
Right.
Like, it is culturally specific, but that expands over the course. Like, that is a fundamental creator of the culture.
Right.
So every generation watching that and watching it thereafter is gonna understand and be able to like connect to watching that happen on screen.
Yeah.
And Kwanzaa episode like that, like you brought up, like that's an episode like that. You know what I mean? Like even her like looking at, like the Dejanay thing, like that.
Yeah.
That joke, like that's going to, or Dejanay like loving Sticky and never leaving him alone.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I had little cousins like that who, like, didn't,
I also love that this was on at the same time as the Parkers.
Yeah, it was mirroring.
Parallels.
It was yeah.
But, yeah, no, I like how it took, like, more, what I think at that time would have been, like, a more adult concept and was like, let's make it for kids, but, like, the same thing, and let's make it animated.
The Double Dutch, her loving gumbo. Like, things that you're like, these are not... This is something that is embedded within.
Yeah.
It's not just something that's happening right now. It's not Trap.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Trap is a moment. Like, and even in this, like, you know, like, they like 15 Cent, but, like, it is a very specific reference. But, like, you know, we get it. It's a young star.
Well, and I think maybe that's the other issue is that when this was out, 2001 to 2005 was before social media became social media. Like, we really didn't have anything like that yet. So it's like everybody, you know, had the same, or most people had a very similar cultural, like, compass. And I don't think that that's true anymore, because now we're kind of like, everybody's in kind of their silos. Like, there's certain things that obviously transcend culture, you know, like a Beyonce or somebody. But it used to be a much more common thing because everybody was listening to the radio. You were all hearing the same stuff.
And top 40, it was just top 40.
Everybody knew a lot of references.
Yeah.
You know, because I'm like, even white kids during 2001 to 2005 would have understood 15 Cent because
He was everywhere.
50 Cent was everywhere.
He was doing vitamin water. Y'all
Right.
remember Formula 50? It was delicious.
Like In the Club just came out in what? Like I think that came out in 2001 or 2002. Like it's like everybody knew it. So there was no. That's another reason you didn't have to prime kids on things because it was just the news. But it's like now it's kind of hard because everybody's kind of in their little silos. So unless you have a big person like a Beyonce or something, you can't really make those jokes without it literally being super niche, you know, or like you're clearly targeting a certain kind of kid.
Unless you take the jokes out of the specific time. You know, unless you extract it and you make it bigger.
Right.
You make it a joke that expands the whole sort of cultural lexicon.
Hard, I will say.
It's very hard, and I think that's why...
The difficulty is higher.
That's why this show, and like this, because I really do... Marcus Garvey Carver gets me every time.
It's just great.
Fantastic.
Again, they just have so many Easter eggs in this show. This movie. Like, even the fact that the preacher, Dr. Marcus Garvey Carter, the peanut version of him, is coded as a black preacher.
He really is.
Instead of a doctor.
Yeah, but it's like his whole...
He talks like a black preacher.
He really does.
Like,
and
we were like, wait, why is he...
And even when they're sitting at, like, the tropical dinner on the island... Chelsea, you brought up when we were watching it, you were like, I love that they have Penny dressed as Josephine Baker.
They
all these fruits.
They do.
Like, they really
like, it's not
a
tropical... She's not wearing a tropical thing. She's literally dressed as Josephine
Baker.
Baker.
It's so funny. And as a kid, I didn't get that reference at all.
Right.
You know, I understood, like, you know, the first black invention that every child learns about is George Washington Carver, because it's peanut butter, and they think, like, great, kids will love that.
Right.
And they're not wrong.
They're not wrong. No.
But it's like, so I got Carver, and, you know, my family's Jamaican, so obviously I also got Marcus Garvey. But I did not, like, I had no interaction with Josephine Baker when I was 12.
Well, because,
or however old I was when this came out. So, it is very just, like, well done in that way, and very thorough.
Mm-hmm.
But, yeah, I don't know. But at the same time, though, I don't know. I very much miss the Proud Family. But at the same time, this film as an ending to that series.
Yeah, let's get into that. I think...
Here's the thing. I remember when this film came out.
Yeah.
I remember watching this movie and not liking it. And I think that was a general sort of consensus.
Yeah.
Amongst the kids. I remember actually, like, now I really like the animation of it, but I remember not being about the animation because it's a little different from the show.
It's, like, different enough that you notice.
Exactly.
But not too different.
Exactly. And then, like, a kid picks that up, and I was like, what are you doing? Mm-hmm. Like, I was mad. It's like how they changed, remember how, like, they changed American Dragon Jake Long animation, like, partway through, and it was like...
Why?
Yeah. That's, like, why'd you do that?
I wonder if it was because they had stopped, because I'm trying to think, 2001, were they still hand-drawing?
It might have been something like that. It might have been like a weird comment. No, 2000 through the early 2000s, they were transitioning to digital things. So I think there was a lot of like hand drawing and then digital overlaying, or like hand drawing bases and then
which is also just crazy. Also, let's
just take a quick moment,
like
and
all of your cartoons before that period.
Yeah, a deep level of respect
drawing that shit
for all of the people who drew
animators
hand.
Work hard as hell.
They really do.
Shout out to y'all.
And they don't get the respect that they deserve under any circumstances. Like, the Oscars just added a Best Animated category. Yes. Lion King didn't win that.
Right. Like, please notice whenever people talk about things being hand-drawn versus digital, realize that is a very difficult choice to make.
And it does pay off. It's beautiful every time.
But they worked for years.
Yeah, years to create those things.
Not months, years.
And I would argue without real question that it takes so much more work to create animation than it does to create anything live action.
Yeah.
I don't care who's directing it.
Yeah.
And the time and the love. I don't care if it's Boyhood, don't matter.
Because you're physically, or you were, especially at the beginning of this time, you were physically putting pen to paper. Like.
Yeah. So. Yeah. And then inking that joint in. Like, if you didn't have royal blue, you ain't have no royal blue.
Right.
You had to figure it out or mix some paint.
And you have to do every single frame. Like, it's just the amount of work that goes into animation is literally insane.
It's incredible. And the level, like, so many people work on it.
Yes.
And, like, 4 people end up getting any type of recognition, if anybody is getting any recognition.
Right.
But there are hundreds of people on every single, and it's true of productions generally, but in animation it is particularly
yeah,
interwoven in that way. You need so many people drawing frames.
We see you
doing
1 year out of art
coloring.
school grads who were probably the ones
Exactly doing it for no money, for pennies.
They're like, we'll pay you $15
and still have to go get people's coffee. Like it's such a hard thing, and it really is like it's a passion.
It is.
Animators are deeply passionate about what they do, and they just don't get the love and respect that they deserve.
No,
so,
animators deserve.
Just a quick
shout out to y'all.
Thank you so much.
We just want to give you your flowers because all of you deserve.
Yes.
Like, that's such a hard job.
Just go out walking around with a bouquet. Are you an animator, sir?
Just take it,
please.
Take it.
Please. Ma'am, do you animate? Here you are.
That's why Hayao Miyazaki films take so fucking long.
Yeah.
Years.
It's incredible. It's actually incredible the work that they do. But I remember, just a quick aside. But I remember, never quick. It's never a quick aside with us, but an aside. I remember responding to this. So because of that being like, but then also kind of specifically being like, this movie is strange. It doesn't track.
It doesn't.
And now that I know that it was like, if I was conscious of it being the end of the Proud Family, I'm sure that there was also a level of like, this is how it ends.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't, like, if for no other reason, the Proud Family never really gets like kind of sci-fi. I mean, like a little bit, I guess, when you think about like the fact that the time travel Penny ending up like in a period of time when
in the Napster episode, but that's not even really.
And that's
sci-fi.
but it's like those were so early, and they're so, and I guess technically the Kwanzaa one, the family ends up going to the sky, and they realize they were like ancestors, but
the family ends up going.
They're in the sky.
No, I know.
They literally are in the sky.
It's like going. No, you're right. Right.
But like but those were like touches, and they were little like notes.
Yeah.
When they showed up, or like BB and CC growing up.
Yeah, it's like a flash forward.
So there are hints of it in the show, but they are very like specific and like little tweaks on an episode or something like that. But that's like the whole premise of this movie. Is something just like strange. We don't even start with the Proud Family, Right. You start on a weird island, and I think that like that. It didn't, and I think it still kind of doesn't track. Like I'm still sort of confused. I think that this is. I literally wrote down as we were watching it. This is a weird ass premise and a weird ass story.
No, it's 100% nonsensical. Like it just doesn't. You're just over here like, wait, why are there peanuts? Why does one look like Jermaine Dupri?
Cashew.
Poor Cashew. And he's just like, how do? And it's like, this is weird. But it's like the whole thing is, and kids like weird, but
it was too weird. I think also, that
we strayed far from the light, guys.
Yeah, I'm gonna blank on the name of it, but essentially that principle that like, when something looks too human-like, it becomes repulsive.
Oh yeah.
That's what these peanuts are, I think.
Yeah, they're slightly disturbing.
I think they meant them to be really cute, and that's just not
they're
what
slightly
happened.
Disturbing. It's weird.
At all.
Yeah, I think this was a weird choice to end it. Also, like, that end credit scene that we saw with Puff turning into, like, Puffzilla, and then Sugar Mama getting him at the end. And it was like Puff's finally getting his revenge, and it's like, but this doesn't track even with the rest of this movie.
It's so strange. It's so strange.
It's like the whole movie is just weird, and that just wasn't something that I associated. Like, the Proud Family didn't have that as like one of their attributes.
Yeah, it's like you could have done the whole film without, like, the film could have been about Penny trying to be this backup dancer and Penny dating
and
for
turning
the first
16,
time.
Yeah,
because that was such a thing in the show.
Right,
it was all about like Penny, when Penny's 16, she can finally date, and she, you know what I mean,
yeah.
And like this idea of that's when she's gonna get this level of freedom, and that being taken away. You could have really focused, and I understand that what they're trying to do is that. And this was a trope of that time, like cloning was a thing.
Yeah.
And people were really worried
about
clones.
Afraid of that. I think the sheep had just come out, right?
Yeah,
that cloned sheep. What was her name?
Stella.
Rose? Oh.
Is it Stella?
I don't know.
I actually weirdly have like close connections to the person who sort of did that, so I should know, but I forget. Or Mary? No, it's not Mary.
Mary the sheep.
Yeah, for some reason I feel like it's Stella or something very like that. But anyway,
yeah.
The point is that it doesn't, like, I understand how we got to that and how you'd say, oh, like, you know, a girl who kind of wishes that her family was different. Clones!
Right.
And they're really black, and we love black references, so, yeah!
We'll
clones! Like, yeah. Or, like, peanut clones? George Washington Carver. Like, I can see how we got here and how we thought it was, like, really clever and a great idea. But I think once it was all put together and compiled and put on the screen, it didn't do. It went somewhere it crossed the trend line. Yeah. And it became repulsive.
It just became weird. It just became very weird. Like, it was just like, why are we doing this?
Yeah.
What's the point? Yeah.
And she learns a good lesson at the end that, like, you know, your family's your family, and that, you know, like, I do always love the ones where kids think that they don't want structure and then realize that they really do.
That they need it.
That they don't like being let wild. They're like, is somebody gonna tuck me in?
Because she only does that for, like, a couple of days, and she's already like, this is horrible.
He's like, who's gonna make me breakfast? I don't understand.
She's like, the twins stink.
The twins, BB and CC stink.
She's just like, nobody's told me to go to bed. I'm tired. Like, she's just like, what is this?
Yeah. It's so funny. Like, those. It's like that episode of the Cosby Show where Rudy wants to stay up mad late and they let her.
Yeah.
She can't handle it. I love episodes of shows like that where kids sort of figure out that they.
It's like, no. That 9 p.m. bedtime. Actually,
like, there's a
you
reason
need that.
There's a reason you have it. Go to sleep.
Yes, go to sleep. Yeah. You know.
No. Go ahead. I wasn't really saying anything.
I was just going to say, I think this also, speaking of what we were talking about earlier about, like, the series in general, I do think this is one of those shows that's pretty much like a call that we need more black animators, but also that people need to allow for there to be more black voice actors. Because this show is like, everybody's black.
Yeah.
Everybody's black that voices them, and then except for the Boulevardes where they have actual Latinx people. And I would just like to note that because people always act like there was a whole hubbub last summer where it was like when people found out that I think the biracial character on Big Mouth was voiced by not Jenny Slate. Was it Jenny Slate? It was a young white female comedian who voiced her, and there was this whole thing about it, and then they ended up being no.
Oh no, she's
it's the one that used to date Chris Evans.
Yeah. No. I know what you're talking about.
I just I just forgot her name in the moment, but. Yeah, and it's like, and there was a whole like hubbub because the voice actors of animation, it's typically very white. Like, there's only really like Cree Summer and then Phil Lamar, I think, and maybe like one or two other black like voice actors who actually like regularly get work. So I think we need to like focus on that next, because you get to a show like this and it's like, it is so important when you're telling stories like these. Or even just having a black character, why do you not have a black voice actor? And then this show also shows that they didn't even have a black voice actor playing the Latinx characters. They got Latinx voice actors. Yeah. And it's just like little things
they
that.
Cared. They cared a lot.
Yeah, exactly. They cared a lot and everything. And it works.
Yeah.
And then you get an authenticity to it.
Which I think that we've talked about this before with like Gotta Kick It Up and, you know, and sort of all of our like very specifically sort of cultural shows or films, Disney Channels or movies. And I think that it keeps coming back to just this. It works when you have the people who it's about, like, when you give them the space to make their content, to make the content that is supposed to represent them and to be, you know, pushed out, aimed at people like them. You know, like it works, and it tends to work so well that it transcends.
Yeah.
Just that
group.
It's something
that always
that
seems
everyone
to throw
can,
people off for some reason,
which is like
never
it should be quite obvious
We've
because
seen
that's how
so
like
many
all
examples
culture
of it.
works.
Like,
you know what I mean? Like when you do it well, it transcends. It grows beyond, and it takes on a life of its own.
It's like Nina and I both love Freaks and Geeks. That has nothing to do with black people
at all.
There's no black people in that show.
But the deep love that not a one.
There's no black people in that show.
And it's one of my favorite
shows. There's no
shows.
even black story. And there's no even black episode. Because even Beverly Hills 90210 had a black episode with Vivica Fox. The original one, obviously. We don't talk about that other one.
We really don't. There's no reason to.
But it's like, there's nothing. But we both absolutely love that. I always rewatch that show. So it's like, again, it transcends.
And that's so specific. It's so about, like, burnout culture of the 80s. Yes. Burnout nerd culture
outside
of the
80s.
Illinois.
Or just outside of Chicago.
Culture. Yeah, exactly. Like, it's so... That is a very
It's literally culturally specific.
But, like, ate it up.
Literally.
You know, or just the way that, like, you know... John Hughes is a very culturally specific...
Yeah.
But everybody loves John Hughes. You know what I mean? Like, transcends.
Yeah.
So, and... It's because, like...
But, you know, people think black people can't transcend.
Yeah. Well, it's because when you do it, like, what you get down to, we said this before, is sort of the bare human emotion of it all.
Right.
And you get to explore it through a lens that you've... Like, if you're not familiar, you get to explore it through a lens that you've never considered, and you get to become familiar with something else.
Mm-hmm.
And people like that. People are naturally curious. People like to learn. We got big brains, y'all. We got big brains, and we like to use them.
Mm-hmm.
Or, you know, you get to see yourself reflected back to you. You get to know those jokes. You get to really get it, and that creates, you know, on either side, it creates deep fondness for those things.
Yeah.
So, yeah, just the same old creed of please let people create their content. You know, make the room. Just don't get in their way.
Make the room, and then also make offers.
No. When I say make the room, I mean give them the money.
Yes. Yes.
Because we're not gonna pretend like Hollywood's money isn't concentrated in a bubble.
Again, why have you had so many white people playing black characters, Indian, just POC characters? Get person from the culture. Like, it's not impossible. It's
not hard.
I don't understand.
I've been told I have a very pleasant voice. If you need somebody to recruit,
you got a voice actor right here.
You can train me from the beginning.
I'm down. One right here.
I'm very down for it.
You know, like there just needs to be more. Yeah. Again, we need more offers, more options.
We really do.
And then stop doing this shit where then like 4 years in, you're suddenly like, oh wow, we should have a black person voicing this black character. Yes. Yes, you should.
You always should have.
Like I just remember the hubbub was just like wild because there's just so many like black characters on TV that aren't voiced by black people. Like I remember when I found out like Cleveland from American or Family Guy. Sorry, not American Dad. It's all Seth MacFarlane though. But for Family Guy is voiced by a white man, and his whole and they have a whole show about him and like.
And his black family.
Yeah, like half of the most of the cast is black, but he's not, and it's just like, what? Why did we do this? What was the choice behind it? Like,
I can tell you what it was.
Well, yeah, I know what it was as well, but it is one of those things where it's like, guys, we just need to do better.
Yeah, we do. It's just it's a call to do better. Yeah. I really hope that this new Proud Family series works out well. Raven's Home is I actually really enjoy it. So I hope that
I watched the pilot and it was cute.
Yeah, it's cute. I think it's really cute. So I would hope that they manage to do something like that. We were talking, and what I would really love is for them to scale it up in like quote unquote real time, and have it follow BB and Cece, and like we get to see Penny like grown up.
Yeah,
like I would love if they decided to go that route.
Penny, a couple years older than us, would be very fun.
It would be very fun.
Her, La Cienega, Dijonay.
You know what I mean? They pop it. You know what I mean? Like BB and Cece have their own little crew.
I would
they can
love
actually
to know what Dijonay is doing now.
Exactly, but we see and Dijonay is definitely the most successful out of everybody.
Oh, of course.
Like and Sticky wants her and can't have her.
I want Dijonay as VP.
Yeah.
Yeah, we need that.
Yeah. And she's the youngest VP at her company.
Literally.
You know what I mean? Like that's what I want.
Yes.
That's what I want.
But yes, no, that is a proud family we deserve.
It is. We're owed it, man. Like, don't. Like, I want to be. This is a show that I want to be able to really. And I guess this is where we can get into it. But I really want to be able to like watch the reboot of Proud Family. Like with, I don't got kids, but like with the youngsters of my life in my life. You know?
Yeah.
And eventually my kids, and be like, yeah, we can watch. Like, mommy grew up with this one, and you guys love this one, and you see like they grew up too, and then like I would, that sort of generational continuation. I think it tracks with what the show did really well, and it's, you know what I mean. Like, we just don't. I feel like, you know, something with things like Toy Story and stuff like that. Like, I feel like in terms of Black representation, I haven't really had that.
Mm-hmm.
Something that lasts.
Mm-hmm.
Like, in that form.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And I would love if the Proud Family ended up being the thing that they made that does that. A little animated show.
Yeah.
That I can watch and that spans and
the time.
That spans time and lasts, and you can stay with from beginning to end.
What's another Black animated show that's not like I remember Static Shock.
Static Shock was fantastic.
Which was great, which was on the WB.
Absolutely.
R.I.P. that network.
Right, man. Saturday morning cartoons of the WB is one of the just
but we haven't had
the kids today don't have that
Black animated show that's like not like for little kids, because like I know we have Doc Mixed Up, and shout out to them. Apparently little white boys are running around here thinking they can't be doctors because that's only Black women's jobs. I saw that on Twitter. This white dad tweeted it. He's like, my son did not think he could be a doctor because he thought that was just Black women's job.
I am okay with that.
And I was like,
fine with that.
Yes.
Hilarious.
And I was like, yes, that's what we want.
That's what they do. I could be a builder.
Right? I could be Bob the Builder. I can't be a doctor though.
That's so funny.
That is solely for curly-haired Black women. It was such a funny tweet. It was such a funny tweet.
That is amazing.
Because that's also how like 4 or 5 year olds think.
Yeah, they're like, but no, I can't do that. They don't do that.
Which is why representation matters.
It's like whenever I talk about like, there's something about like coloring hair, and my godson was like, I was like, you can wear your hair green. He was like, like that's only girls. That's a girl hairstyle. Girls color their hair. Like, boys don't do that, right? Like that's how he has coded that. Mm-hmm. In everything he's seen. Like,
it's always the girls.
The wild colors of the girls. I was like, all right, well, no Dennis Rodman in your life, I suppose.
Till you get a little bit older.
Yeah, but
yes,
they really do latch on that way. That's amazing.
But yeah, I'm trying to think of like another like Black animated show that just like transcended like this, and I can't think of one
transcended like this,
or like that was like.
I mean, I've always had a thing about the fact that, and I do have a thing where there's a part of me that sort of charges BT a little bit. Like, retroactively is like, not retroactively, I don't really want them to do it now. I don't trust them to. But, like, it never made sense to me that BT didn't have children's programming.
Yeah, no, I've never understood that.
I've never that doesn't make any sense. Like, why wouldn't you have
kids programming?
Yeah. There was Fat Albert. But like,
did that get a reboot when we were?
They did that live action version with Keenan.
Yeah, no, I remember that.
Kyla Pratt was in that.
Yeah, she was.
Kyla Pratt and Keenan, and I think Omarion shows up.
Yeah, and then Megan Good. There was something.
No, Megan Good. Megan Good's on Cousin Skeeter.
Yeah, no, I know. I'm trying to think of like who was like the.
Maybe she was
the femme fatale, because there was like a.
Or like other. Oh no, is Megan Good the one that?
I can't remember.
I don't know.
I had that like I remember seeing she.
But I think I don't know. I just know because Kyla Pratt's supposed to be like the creator's like granddaughter or something like that.
Yeah, was she the
or
the
granddaughter of whoever
lead.
was? No, she was the female lead.
Yeah,
and she was having like a hard time at school.
Yeah,
and Fat Albert came to help her.
Right. Yeah, I haven't seen that movie.
But they come it's their life like. But
yeah,
Fat
they
Albert,
come out of the animation
as a TV. Fat Albert existed, but it was technically before our time.
Yeah,
technically.
Yeah.
They showed reruns of it.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. If we
Yeah.
Please let us know, because we might just be like spacing.
Yeah, there's a very good chance of that.
But it is one of those things where I feel like there has been like a lack of black animated show, like specifically black, not just like a white show that has black characters, like a random like 3 or 4 black characters.
Yeah.
Like a specifically black show. I don't think there's been that many, and especially if there is, that I don't think they transcended to this level in the time since Proud Family.
Yeah.
So, you know, I think it's necessary. I think we need more of it. We need more black animation.
Will you show it to your babes? Well, let me just add to that real quick. We'll definitely watch the show. I don't know about the movie. I don't know. I mean, like, I feel like you end up having to watch the movie just because it's in the, you know, but
I think some kids might enjoy it. But
yeah, some kids might be about it because it's weird. And I think, like, you know, they do the
It's also Penny is not wearing her normal outfit. And I remember that was part of the thing. It's
like exactly.
She changes a lot in this one.
We just don't get a lot of the elements of the show and, like, the elements of the friendships, the elements of, you know what I mean? Yeah. Or it's all of the antagonistic elements of the relationship with, like, her and her family. You know what I mean? We don't get, like, when he scoops her up and brings her home after the strike and is like, Mom's making gumbo and ice cream. Peach cobbler with homemade ice cream. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like, we don't get as much of that. Or, like, you know, when he... you remember when he does the thing, he's like, my mom always said I was so skinny that I could disappear, and that if I turn sideways, I disappear. And he turns sideways and he disappears. It's just lips in the thing. It's amazing. It's so good. But, like, we don't get, like, a lot of those moments.
Yeah.
And it's like, that's what made the Proud Family what it was.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
If it doesn't have to be the end of what I'm showing them, then sure.
Yeah. No, I feel like I would also inevitably show it to them if they... Because it's like, if you watch the show, you're probably going to want to watch the movie.
Yeah.
Just to finish it out. And me telling you it's not that good is not going to deter you.
Yes, so, it's not going to deter me.
So it's just one of those things. But yeah, I mean, I still think it's like... The show itself means a lot, so I give the movie a break to a degree.
Yeah.
Just because the show itself means a lot, and there are some good references in this one.
Yeah, I mean, again, Marcus
Garvey Carter,
tongue twister.
You know.
Yeah.
You have Bobby Proud singing the national anthem for approximately an hour.
I think Penny calls the choreographer, played by Lisa Ray.
Yes.
Like, let's just...
Lisa Ray plays the choreographer.
Which I caught right away.
She was so proud of myself. Lisa Ray?
I was like, I know that voice. But plays the choreographer, and Penny calls her a wannabe Debbie Allen.
She does.
Like, it's just phenomenal.
The Proud Family's just ripe with those types of moments where you're just like, yes.
And when you rewatch the show, they're so packed. Mm-hmm. It's like the way that, you know how people talk about, like, 30 Rock and The Office being so packed with jokes?
Or even something like the, what's her name? Amy Palladino. Like, that's her whole thing. Amy Sherman Palladino. It's like she does these pop culture references and really, really fast.
Yeah, and it's just this rapid fire. Yeah. Like, there are shows that you can reference that do that. The Proud Family does that.
Yeah.
It's actually insane. Like, rewatching it, I was like, wait a minute. Like, give me a second, guys. Let me catch up. You're throwing a lot at me at once.
The Gross Sisters, it's a concept.
Everything about them.
Their names are Nivea, Neutrogena, and Olay. And they're ashy. Like, it's just like, Neutrogena?
I thought it was Nivea. Nubia was the first
No, it's
one.
actually Nivea.
It is Nivea?
I looked it up. Yeah,
that makes
they're
sense.
all named after lotions.
Because I was like, you can't be naming no character Nubia and have
she's
her
ashy.
That ashy. That's crazy.
They're all named after lotion.
Oh, I always thought it was Nubia.
But did Neutrogena...
How
did they get away with Neutrogena is my
Olay,
question.
that makes so much... I always thought Olay was spelled O-L-E with an accent or something like that.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know why.
Not Olay.
Olay.
Not the Spanish
No, I really thought. That's what I thought. So that was my only reference to that word. It never occurred to me that she was named after lotion.
Yes.
Huh. That she's named after Olay, the, like, company. That's amazing. See what I mean? Like, I'm still unpacking the Proud Family. I'm still finding jokes in
Also
it.
the Yatch.
The Yatch.
Yeah,
Zoe was like, it's pronounced
I think of
yacht.
Yatch. To this day, I think of Yatch.
She's like, yo, Sticky, what happened to my Yatch? It's amazing.
Which also is funny because it just doesn't make sense in English either.
It doesn't.
Like, you would never...
Everyone has to learn how to pronounce that. Like, everyone is like, that's yacht? When they're like, when you learn to spell yacht, you're like, huh, okay. Like, you just catalog that one as one of those weird English rules that you just
It's
put
like
in
knife.
Well, I guess you get no and all the other, like, night. Like, you get all those K ones. You learn that rule.
Night isn't... Well, night, yeah. Night, no. Yeah.
Yeah.
We have a lot of, like, weird ones. I thought
With
you were
the
talking
K.
about C, but again, I thought
No,
you were
there are
talking about
multiple.
A-N-O.
Yeah, there are multiple. there are multiple, and you just gotta learn that.
Right.
Like, it's a rule.
Yeah.
You take it and you're like, okay, this is what it is. And you move on with your life.
Yes. English makes no sense. Rhyme or reason, not there.
It is a melting pot of a language.
Yes.
But yeah, I think it was, even if I didn't love the movie itself, like you said, Chelsea, I loved that the movie allowed me to get back into this space of thinking about this show, and being with these characters again was just great. So yeah, it gets a huge pass. Huge. Because of it. That's how good The Proud Family was.
Yes.
That it's like, I'll forgive it because I'm just glad that it exists. And I guess with that,
we'll catch you guys next week. Happy Black History Month.
I'm putting a fist in the air.
Thanks for listening to this week's episode of The Critics Kingdom. Don't forget to follow us on Spotify and SoundCloud so you can stay up to date, as well as interacting and letting us know what you guys think on social media. You can find us on Twitter at Critics Kingdom and on Instagram at The Critics Kingdom. We're excited to talk to you again next week.